o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Joining us now is Congresswoman Yvette Herrell, and thanks for coming on with us here on this Friday after the election. And I'm sure you were unpleasantly surprised by the turnout and the results on Tuesday night. I'm sorry it didn't work out.
Oh, I know. I'm just heartbroken. I'm very grateful, though, for the opportunity to just be on the radio with you again. I think our race was incredible. Our team, I cannot say enough about how hard our team worked, and just really people all over the district. And just, it's. I think it's so hard because it was such a very close, less than 1%. And what I'm really more concerned about is just the industries that are so very vital to the 2nd Congressional District and the people that really are concerned about the direction of this country, about this state. And so, I don't want people to be discouraged, though, because we've got to, it's worth fighting for. And we've got to keep pressing in and digging in. And, with saying that, I want to just say, I know we're celebrating Veterans Day today, so I want to thank all of the veterans that are listening for their service, because certainly they understand, how critical it is to protect our democracy, our freedom, and I think we're going to continue to do just that.
Let me ask you this regarding the election results, and you mentioned it was less than 1%, something like 1,200 vote difference. Were you confident in the vote counting process that it wasn't close enough, or you didn't want to challenge it? Could you just kind of share with us what your thoughts were as far as that was concerned?
Yeah, so people have asked if we were going to do a recount, but the automatic recount kicks in if the difference is less than 0.25. And so we were just outside that margin, and it's very expensive to do a recount, to pay for it yourself, and it takes a lot of time. It takes 30 or 45 days to do it, and we obviously were watching the votes very closely, so I can assure people it's not as if they just dropped in a bunch of absentee ballots at the end. We knew how many were out, we knew how many were Democrat, how many were Republican. We knew the totals of all that going into Election Day, and so we were able to monitor that. So I do want people to know it wasn't as if they just dropped in a whole bunch of new absentee ballots like we saw happen, in 2018. And we knew, this was going to be a very tight race, and I think we can look at that redistricting map. When you change the district so dramatically, I'm just so grateful for so much support that we really got out of Doñana County and in Bernalillo County, because we actually took 43% of the vote in Doñana County, which is completely unheard of, that kind of performance for a Republican, and we took 41% of the votes that we had in Bernalillo County, again, two heavily Democratic counties, and to perform that high is just incredible. And so, I'm like I said, we worked very hard, and it tells me and it gives me encouragement that, they want to always label Democrats that they don't think or believe in the faith, family, and freedom values, or they don't believe in business. They don't believe in, doing it for ourselves, and that's just not the case. Many Democrats and independents feel very passionate about the state and about the country, and I think that was proven in just so many people coming out to help get us to where we got. And I think it surprised probably Democrats more than anything that it was that close. I really do.
Yeah, no question.
They expected a runaway.
Yeah, that was after the redistricting. That was a lean Democrat district, or is a lean Democrat district, and it was a lot closer than you thought. I think one of the things that was disappointing for me in just looking at the results was the lack of turnout in Eddy and Lee County, and Yvette, I don't understand that. Do you have? Obviously, if we had an explanation for it, it would have been better. But what do we think's going on with that?
I don't know what happened, and that's sadly, we were really, really counting on Lee and Eddy to get us across the finish line, and the voter turnout was very, very low. And what's so sad is you think, if another 1,000 people or 2,000 people between the portions of the counties that we had over there would have gotten out to vote, we'd be having a very different conversation. Because I am proud of Chavez. We only had 97 voters in Chavez County, and we got 96 of them. So go Chavez. I'm very pleased there. But I don't know what happened. We spent time, and I think we knocked on more doors in Eddy County then we got votes. I think I don't know if people just got busy, got complacent. I don't know if they started thinking, it's going to be a big red wave. She's got this. We don't have to worry. I don't know. And I obviously want to make sure that, in the future, we're not just me, the party, that the parties are engaged, that we're engaging the community, that we're making sure people have access to information or whatever. Because I felt very encouraged by what I was hearing down there when I was personally down in Eddy County, for instance. But, I don't know why people don't go to the polls, because this is going to be, I think, very detrimental for especially the energy, space down there. Because, Gabe Vasquez said, we should end fracking. We should keep, oil and gas in the ground. And that is the exact same mindset of now the entire delegation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be, I think, very, very scary times. And I'm going to stay engaged. I'm going to stay relevant. I'm going to stay involved with things. We had some bills that were introduced that now I'm going to make sure they get introduced, even if I can't be there to shepherd them through, that will help. But I tell you, the place that we've put our nation in terms of just this compromising position with energy and with agriculture is just scary. And I wish I had the answer. That's the $20,000 question. Why was voter turnout low? Because it was, and you are right, compared to models we were looking at and kind of basing our numbers on over the last 4 or 5 midterms. In the 2nd congressional district, we actually were expecting about 20,000 more voters to get out, and we were modeling it off previous numbers, and then we had to make adjustments just by virtue of we didn't have all of Lee County or all of Eddy County, but a pretty good kind of a framework to work with. And yes, we were about 20,000 voters low on what we expected in the 2nd congressional.
Yeah, and I'm sure it would have made a huge difference. But that's the ultimate question, because we can talk about the redistricting, we can talk about early voting, whether it's good or bad, or if it gives an advantage to one side or the other. But at the end of the day, if people don't vote, then it really doesn't make any difference what you do to accommodate that. Let me ask you this. I know the Republican Party in New Mexico has a court challenge to the redistricting.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that stand now?
So on the court challenge, where that is right now is, I believe it's January 9th. So just let me back up a little bit. It had gone to the Supreme Court, and then the Democrats had filed a dismissal. And so just so everybody's on the same page, so a few months ago, the court kicked that out and said, no, we're going to move forward. So that didn't mean that they're going to for sure hear the case. What it meant was they at least want to know more about it. So on January 9th, they've asked both sides, the attorneys, to provide their, kind of their oral arguments about the case. Then, and it's a very long process, then the Supreme Court will determine yes or no. It has merit, we're going to hear it, or they may just say, you know what, we're not going to get involved, we're not hearing it. So our first hearing to determine where the direction it goes from there will be January 9th. And then the sad thing is they may decide in a few days, or they may take a few months. You just don't know. And then they'll come back and say, yes, we're going to go ahead and move this to a hearing, and we're going to give everybody ample time to do their depositions and to get everything together. And they'll give each side, kind of a benchmark of here's what you're going to have to prove, one way or the other. And that could then go on till who knows when. So we've got the first hurdle will be January 9th. And if the arguments are valid and to the point the court would hear the case, then they'll come back and say yes. And then they'll start making those dates, when we know it'll actually be heard as an actual case.
Now, this is the New Mexico Supreme Court?
Yes,
okay.
The New Mexico Supreme
Very
Court.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's because the one good thing is it has already been challenged to be dismissed, and the court said no. So that's a bit of a little victory, so that there's still interest there. And like I said, once they do the arguments in January on the 9th, they could respond to that within a few days. They could wait a few months. That's the thing we just don't have control over. And then once they make that decision, after January, we'll wait for their decision. Then we know whether we're moving forward with a case in front of the court or whether they're going to say no. And I hope just because what breaks my heart is just so many people that really are going to be disenfranchised with having any kind of voice in Washington, especially, like you say, over there with the Eddie Lee, Chavez counties, the ones that are so important to our energy space, and even the ones up north, with so that's to me where it's just unfortunate for everybody. I just am sick over it because I'm heartbroken because I know how hard we worked. I know we kept the message front and center. I know our team was so amazing, and we delivered and really kept the conversation relevant and really spoke about things that mattered to New Mexico. The big ones are obviously energy, border, and ag. Did so much work on the Natural Resources Committee. So it's really such a disenfranchisement now to see those voices just kind of be shut down. But the good news is I've been very blessed and have made great relationships with so many people on the Hill. And I've actually already talked to the chairman of the Natural Resources. He'll be the chairman when they take the majority, when the Republicans take the majority. And he has told me they are going to stay engaged with a lot of the policies that we brought forward because we did some great work. And so that brings me great comfort knowing that we'll still be engaged in the conversation and we'll still be talking to constituents and we'll still be helping to make sure good policy gets introduced in Washington because it's just too important. And I might be down, but I'm not out, So,
Yeah.
And then we'll see what the future looks like too.
Sure.
This is going to be an interesting 2 years for sure.
Yeah. Well, and one other thing, we just didn't get a chance to meet Reba. And
I know.
so maybe
I might have to just do a little road trip with Reba when I'm back in D.C. right now. I had to come back for some meetings later today. But I might just have to take Reba on a little road trip because we are so thankful just really for the support and the prayers. And just our campaign, I think, was flawless. It was positive. It was on the mark in terms of issues important to the district and to the state. And I couldn't be more proud of all of the people that helped in so many different ways. So I'm very grateful for just an incredible, people are just incredible. And you just see the best of people. And, we fell a little bit short, but you know what? We just need to keep pressing on. I mean, we have no choice, really.
Yeah. Well, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think a Democrat has kept that seat back to back.
Right.
Joe Skeen held it for so long, and then it's just kind of bounced back and forth. Republican will have it for a term or two. Well, Steve had it for a while, too, and then...
Yeah, Steve had it for a while.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm very encouraged by the number of people all over the district it amazes me, just hundreds and hundreds of people have said, please run again, don't give up, we need you in D.C., you've delivered for us, and certainly that is part of the thought process. Now let's just see, and I think we'll see by votes coming out of D.C. starting in January and February how they're going to have a voice, and it's not going to be there. And so I think we'll see with the 2024 presidential election year, there may be more motivation. And, I just have, it's been an incredible journey, and I have loved the opportunity. And we've had to fight every day for the seat for a lot of years. But when we're there, we sure make a difference. So we'll just see what the future looks like for us. But I'm encouraged by everybody's notes and cards and texts telling me, please run again. Please stay in the fight. We need you. So that makes my heart smile for sure.
Well, I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again in the very near future, and keep up the good fight here over the last couple of months in the lame duck session, and we'll see where Yvette Herrell winds up after this. Thank you so much for your time.
You bet, Gene. You have a blessed day. And again, I just want to say Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans and their families, and thank you for their service.
All right. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk again real soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good. Thank you, Gene. All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. That's Congress.